Welcome to Adaptation, the book to movie podcast. I'm Nate.
And I'm Chris.
And today we are discussing George Orwell's Animal Farm. But before we dive into that conversation, how are you, buddy?
I'm good. I don't know if you can see, but I got myself quite a bit of sun today.
Oh, you were outside?
Yep, took the kids up to the park. And
Okay.
you know what? I wore my boots because Friday we went to the park and I wore my shoes and I did entirely too much running around. So I thought this was my little cheat code so I wouldn't get pulled into running too much. Still did 17,000 steps.
And you got sunburn to show for it.
And a pile of well, I wore a hat Friday and it was a little more overcast today, so I didn't, and that was dumb and wrong. But that's poor quality audio content for our dear listeners. Let me tell you what I've been reading.
Yeah, please do.
So I'm almost done with that one with the real fancy cover that I got when we were down in Omaha.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Among the Burning Flowers. Now, I do have a little bit of a bone to pick with this one, if I may be picky.
Please.
It's one of those series, I've been seeing this more lately. The Witcher series did this. Another very good series that I highly recommend, I hope they do an adaptation of it, is Fonda Lee's Bone... Oh my gosh, I almost said Bone Crusher. That's not it. The Jade City? Oh gosh. Jade.
Those are not even similar. Bone Crusher and Jade City.
How do I remember the author's name and not the series?
Well, that's just a criticism.
Okay. I was actually nearly spot on. Number one is Jade City, the first book in the Greenbone saga.
Oh, okay.
But fabulous series, but they did this. Oh my gosh, Sarah J. Maas did this with the ACOTAR series. There's this, I don't know, this emerging... I don't want to be so on the pessimistic or crass side. It appears like, oh, you still had the notes and realized you could squeeze out another book that people would pay money for.
Oh.
I don't want to believe that that's what's happening. But anyway, I'm seeing more often now where a full series is out, or 1 and 2 from a trilogy are out, and then they'll go back and release a book 0.5. Have you seen this?
No.
Or book like with ACOTAR, it was very famous. It's a super tiny one that you do not have to have read the rest to understand. It's like a standalone in the same universe, and it's like technically book 1.5 or something.
Okay.
It's like a Christmas special.
Yeah, I get it.
And so this is Samantha Shannon. Well, I can show you. It's a beautiful cover, absolutely beautiful. You were there when I bought it, I know, but for viewers interested, it's Samantha Shannon who wrote Priory of the Orange Tree, which was incredible, phenomenal. I have trouble recommending it to people because it's a frickin' tome.
I remember seeing that one in your house. It's huge.
It's like, I want to say 900 pages. And this is, I was chatting with oh no, do you remember the shop name? We should give them a plug. That place rocked.
No, but I'll find it and I'll put it down in the show notes below.
Over by Ariel's house. Yeah. I chatted with that lady for a while and we both had to go look it up. And I believe it's technically like titled 0.2 in the series.
Oh God.
Like way back in time before listen, the Star Wars Expanded Universe being the epitome of this. I am a big fan of, we've got a universe we love. Yes, more. Give me more.
Sure.
Actually, we just touched on it last week. Night of the Seven Kingdoms, same thing. Same universe, different timeline. So anyway, her writing as always is fabulous. It's a universe I'm already familiar with. So I'm really, really digging it. Book 1 came out. Here's book 0.2, 18 months later.
Right.
I don't know.
It's a little silly.
It rubs me in an odd way. Like, just say it's in the same universe, but not the same. I don't know. They're
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
So there.
So that's your rant.
But that's what I've been reading, and I love it. And I am not one to pay full price for books often.
Right.
And so this was a little bit of a gamble in that I just thought, this is an author I love, let's go for it. And well worth whatever $20, $25 I gave them.
Good. And supported a local business.
Honestly, that was the tipping point for me. Cool shop, super awesome lady. I presume she's the owner. I guess I didn't even ask her that. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to buy something. I think she is.
I think based on what I've seen and heard, she is. Cool. Well, I've been watching a lot of movies, which of course I love to do.
Good.
So I'm just going to run through the handful. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. I saw The Devil Wears Prada 2. Liked it a lot. Obviously. It's a goodie. Then I also saw Remarkably Bright Creatures, which is an adaptation that is now streaming on Netflix. And I actually thought it was pretty good. My sister loves the book. It's about a woman that's a nighttime janitor at an aquarium in like small town Oregon. Pretty cute.
Mm-hmm.
And then I actually saw another adaptation that we intentionally kept off the list because we thought it looked stupid. And we were really freaking wrong. The Sheep Detectives, which is a whodunit murder mystery where a flock of sheep solve their shepherd's murder. And it was actually really surprisingly good and cute and made me cry. So that's a little bit embarrassing. But
oh, nuts. Okay, so we turn it back around. That's fine. We can admit we were wrong. We can.
Yeah. Maybe that empty slot later this year.
I mean, the description sucks.
It looks stupid. Don't look up a trailer for the movie because it looks ridiculous, but it's actually not terrible. I mean, it's like a family movie. Okay. It's not meant to be a brain twister or anything, but it's cute. So some fun stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, if I recall correctly, we've had a number of episodes now where you were on pretty slim pickings. You really made a tear here.
Yeah, this was a pretty slow start to the year cinematically for me, but catching up now, and it's summer movie season, and next weekend, this weekend, something is Star Wars, the Mandalorian movie, so I'll be back in the theater. There's plenty coming down the pipeline.
Wonderful.
Good. Well, on that note, let's talk about, one of the movies I left off, actually, is an adaptation, the brand new adaptation of Animal Farm. But before we get into this latest movie, Chris, tell me a little bit about George Orwell's book.
Yes, of course. Okay, so George Orwell, born Eric Arthur Blake. Did you know George Orwell was a pen name?
Nope.
Me neither. Okay,
kind of wish I never learned that. In fact,
yeah, he made a good choice here. He made a good choice. I mean, imagine looking at a book and saying, "Yeah, Eric Arthur Blake. I'll read him."
Well, it's not a bad. All three. It is boring. It's like three very standard names.
First of all, and my thoughts on this, it's three first names.
Yeah, that's true.
So, that guy sucked. No, in this case, not quite, but he made a good choice. Born in 1903, Nate, how do we do this? We got ourselves another freaking Brit.
Oh, I think you and I are closet Anglophiles.
That hurt a little to hear out loud. Yeah, put that on the list to speak to a therapist about. Okay. So
is it that big a deal?
Anglophiles? Yes.
Isn't that people? That's people that like Britain?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
in all its colonial terror glory.
Oh God, we're American. We're white Americans. We don't.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. No, Anyway, I love watching their rugby team lose.
Oh, there it is.
And you know what? A fun little, if anyone's got a spare 2.5 hours, the most recent women's cricket T20 between New Zealand and England was a very fun watch. And I love watching England lose, so bonus there. Anyway, Mr. Blake here. I did go back and forth, and just for your information, I am for the entirety of the episode going to call him George Orwell.
Okay, please and thank you.
Great. Okay. So Orwell, he is a British citizen born in, I hope I'm getting this right, Mortihari, India,
Okay.
British colony, 1903, the arguably heyday of the Raj. I think I feel pretty confident saying this. I did want to bounce it off you, see what you thought. Arguably more famous for his dystopian novel 1984. How do you feel about that statement?
More than Animal Farm?
Right.
Sure. I mean, pretty even. Like, that's not an
You think so?
offensive
No, certainly not.
comment. But yeah, I guess I do. I guess my mind probably does go to 84 before it does Animal Farm, even though
I
I've
mean,
watched 3 Animal Farm movies recently.
which is an interesting choice in and of itself.
Yeah, well, commit to the bit, baby.
The difference is almost everyone I know I can confidently say has read 1984.
Okay.
And I would not say the same of Animal Farm.
Really?
Well,
I feel
have you
like
read 1984?
I've not read either of them.
Really? You guys didn't? We had like a big unit on 1984. I want to say seventh grade. They do like a dystopian mega unit. I remember it was Fahrenheit 451, 1984, and then I think like Flowers for Algernon are like all one big unit.
Which one do they burn books?
Fahrenheit 451.
Okay, I've read that one.
Okay, so maybe your school was like a one or the other.
I guess.
Okay, interesting. So maybe you're proving me wrong. I don't know. But I mean, both massive, massive books by
Yeah.
George Orwell.
Yeah, sure.
Coined terms that are far too relevant, like Big Brother, which I did not know till I was looking into this, that was a Orwellism. And then along those lines, the term Orwellian is now
Right.
applied to situations of, dystopian, generally disliked autocratic or dictatorial regimes. Even
Yeah.
on a smaller scale, things will, be described as Orwellian if they've got
Right.
that vibe, right?
Yeah, and that exact vocabulary word is why I do think 84 sort of has the edge over Animal Farm,
Yes.
because you almost think of this like science fiction type uh, oppressive system, even though
Yes.
Animal Farm points out that we live in those systems.
Exactly. Yes. And maybe the difference is one is allegorical, one is not, one is
Right.
anthropomorphized pigs, one is who knows. But yeah, definitely along the same lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about the book itself, Animal Farm, a wonder-filled and lighthearted tale much akin to its spiritual successor, 1952's Charlotte's Web.
Yes. Yeah.
Just kidding. I was
Well, I
expecting
mean,
a
in
better
some
response
ways,
from you.
oh, sorry. I mean, it is
No, it's
a
nothing akin to that. It is not
that's not true. It's trying to tell a
kind-hearted.
lesson using farm animals. Come on.
Okay, and that's where the similarities between Animal Farm and Charlotte's Web stop.
Oh, well, I know that you're also an E.B. Whitehead, so I was like, maybe
Huge
there's
E.B.
some
White
stuff
fan.
about E.B. White that I don't know.
No, nowhere near the same writing style, nowhere near the same no, it is diametrically opposed in every capacity, besides the presence of pigs. Okay, well, that's not what this is. This is a satirical allegorical novella,
Yeah, yeah,
which I love.
yep.
It had an alarming list of crazy subtitles. Originally, he wanted it titled Animal Farm: A Fairy Tale.
Oh, that's funny because I think some
It's
of those have
something.
been used in marketing materials for the movies.
Oh, interesting.
I think the
Okay.
latest one is called A Cautionary Tale, but it's spelled Tail.
Yes. Oh, Oh,
Cautionary something. Yeah. Yeah, cringy.
that's a groaner.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
cringing going on. Just wait till we get
Yes,
to the
there
movies.
is. There is. No, I mean, it's inherent, right? We're listening to a bunch of pigs talk to each other, which we
Right.
will also get back
Yeah,
to later.
allegorical stuff is
Right.
sort of cringy.
Yes, I mean, inherently, and you can see, yeah. I want to double back because I had written my notes in the wrong order. I just thought that would be a cool transition, and I was wrong. So this was published in 1945. And fun little interaction with our discussion of cats, which is apparently now going to keep coming up every episode.
Talk about Orwellian. Yeah, no kidding.
He had trouble getting it published because this is immediate, well, writing it during the end of World War II and published immediately after. And there was still a lot of pro-Soviet sentiment in England because they were allies in the war.
Okay.
And we've got this tricky interaction going on where Orwell himself was a staunch democratic socialist, and his beef, his pork, really was with.
Bad.
It's not even worth it either because there are
No.
cows in the book.
Right. Yep. Canceled.
Was with Stalin and Stalinism in particular.
Right.
Right. So it's not
Yep.
like the dude was also a socialist. So a lot of places refused to publish it, including a particular publisher at Faber and Faber, T.S. Eliot.
What a turd.
Isn't that fun?
It is
Fun
kind of
little
funny. Yeah.
fun. That being said, it did get published. Someone did pick it up.
Good.
And I mean, obviously, we're still talking about it. They're still making many renditions. Has seen tremendous success since 45. Time magazine chose it as one of the 100 best English language novels for the time period, 23 to 2005. Number 31 on the modern list of best 20th century novels. Number 46 on the BBC's Big Read poll. Won the Hugo in 96, 5 decades later.
Whoa.
And is included in the great books. We've talked about that, yes, the great books.
Yeah, I think so. We have, yeah.
Okay, yes, and is included in there for Western literature. I mean, yeah, this puppy's done numbers, and for good reason.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things about this book is the description, satirical, allegorical novella, not just because of the fantastic reference in the cartoon Archer, where we've got that interaction I was just discussing. He also supports socialism, big advocate, had a lot to do in the Spanish Civil War, fairly active in England after he was deemed medically unfit for full service and was a part of the Home Guard, I believe they were called, and supporting essentially the British Socialist Party at home that whole time, and wrote this entire thing specifically to criticize Stalin and what had happened, in what was that, 1917, I think. So 2.5 odd decades since the rise of communism, which obviously he would disagree with. Yeah, fascinating interaction. So he didn't intend for this to be this critique of communism or socialism necessarily itself, which kind of surprised me when I found that out, because that's not what I take away from it, and I think what a lot of people take away from it.
Totally.
I want your side of this because I've felt a certain way about this book for many years since I read it the first time. 2010 probably. In modernity, I think it is almost certainly viewed as a critique of communism as a whole. Do you get that impression?
Yeah, that's certainly how people see it, including other storytellers. We'll talk a lot about communism in the film section. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, I would say certainly we know the author's perspective. Well, I guess maybe I'm splitting hairs. Maybe he was also not a fan of communism, but I find it difficult to say you are a democratic socialist, but also adamantly opposed to communism.
Right.
What he was against was what was literally taking place in the Soviet Union, which
like
was strictly
totalitarianism.
Stalinism.
Yeah,
Exactly. We can now look back and view this as the autocratic authoritarianism that it became. And I mean, I've had the argument with people too many times. Do not reply to this and tell me you want to have a discussion. Stalin's Soviet Russia was absolutely not communism.
correct.
Different discussion,
Right.
different podcast, I guess, probably.
Yeah, yeah,
But I
maybe.
think yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would love to get into it, but that's out of our purview.
Yeah,
Um, what's interesting is this was such a specific individual and regime in power at the time that he's talking about. And we see these shadows now in modern reading of these infamous regimes that we all have grown up thinking along the same lines. Pol Pot, Kim Jong Un, Kim Jong Il. President Xi is probably pushing into some tough territory, but as the modern successor of this system,
right.
that is certainly strayed far and away from where Mao Zedong started.
Yeah,
Not advocating for him necessarily, but you see my point.
yeah,
So it's almost this self-fulfilling prophecy. I don't know that any of them were reading Animal Farm and going, yeah, man, I could do that too. But we see these very specific recurrences of what happens in the storyline, and then we see them happen for us historically, but for them, 40 years later in Vietnam or North Korea or Cuba, right?
yeah,
Which I thought was fascinating because I'm picturing all of those things as it goes and completely forgot. No, this was published in the 40s. All of these other things I'm picturing happened after.
hmm,
You
right.
know,
Yeah,
the storyline itself, it is considered technically a beast fable, which I love and had never heard of before. Had you heard
yeah.
that term?
No, but we do use like beast, like a creature feature is what I was thinking of. The term for
Mm,
movies about animals.
yep.
Yeah,
I do like beast fable better,
yeah,
but both quite clear about
yeah,
what they're talking.
yeah,
We follow some mistreated anthropomorphized animals who rebel to take control of their farm. This is a thinly veiled, even for allegorical standards, thinly veiled reference specifically to the Russian Revolution, execution of the last Tsar, Nicholas II.
yeah.
There was another part that I really wanted to delve into. Orwell himself, crazy, as I was trying to give some description, I was like, this is going to be too much. This has to become another lightning round. We don't have time for everything there because there's so
Sure.
much in the book.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to focus my discussion specifically around this aspect that stood out to me much more now than, again, I guess 16 years ago when I went through it the first time.
Okay.
And I'm curious how close. You said you've not read it, right?
Correct.
Do
I've
you know
seen.
anything? Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say everybody else in my high school read it. I don't recall if I skipped it or if I maybe was in a class that didn't require it. But I feel like the only person on earth that hasn't read the book.
We didn't. Well, I guess same thing. Maybe it was just the classes I was in, but we didn't do it in high school either.
No. Okay. I know a
Um,
lot of my friends did because I've seen the physical copy like 1 million times.
uh-huh.
I just never read it.
Huh.
Maybe
Okay,
maybe I skipped
that's
it.
even
I don't
more
know.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm wondering for myself now too. So maybe more people have read it than I think. It is, as a novella, it is terribly easy to get through. I want to say it's like 96 pages.
Whoa. Okay.
I mean, you can easily do this book in a sitting.
Yeah.
So anyway, what's curious and really stood out to me was this very Old Testament flavor in the text, especially once the animals take over.
Okay.
Their little consortium, junta, whatever you want, upon taking control of the farm, sit down and write this series of rules.
Yeah.
They're 7 commandments, obviously clear, right?
Yeah.
10 commandments, 7 commandments.
Yeah.
That part didn't even catch me the first time. I had to go back to it. But the lines of them, the way they were written, were so it could not be anything else. It had to be deliberate on his part. They're worded as whatever goes upon two legs, blah, 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 whatever goes upon four legs, blah, blah. This very Old Testament syntax.
Yeah. Okay.
So I did some digging. I could not find what I expected to see, especially from a, what's considered a very leftist party at that time. So, well, this is England, so it didn't have to be hard to be leftist, but you know what I mean. I'm expecting a pretty scathing view of organized religion from him,
Sure.
and the that caused dissonance for me because, of course, a big tenet of communism, certainly at that time, also certainly now, is the abolishment of any organized religion because it
Right.
is this opiate of the masses. That's their excuse. What they don't like is someone else having power, right?
Right.
Which, you look at something like the institution of the papacy and you go, okay, you guys have some fair points.
Yeah.
But I expected to find just this immediate, very clear disdain for organized religion on his part, and this to be sort of his way to take a jab at it.
Sure.
It is, in fact, different than what I was looking for. Sorry, I'm looking for my notes here. So the Old Testament language is considered to be putting forward these ideas in terms of the power of the writing. The prophetic tone, these individuals giving this message of hope, message of liberation.
Sure.
The parables often used to teach, to disseminate in an historically oral tradition. How are these lessons being taught? And that's very much what we see among the animals, right? These ideas of covenant, sacrifice, and then ultimate commandments. This is what we do. This is how our society works, right?
Yeah.
So it again, there could be more information out there. I did not find anything that this was on his part deliberately pro or anti religion.
Sure.
I would say to all of those points, yes, uses it to wildly successful ends, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And then as I'm looking, I find this was not an Animal Farm thing. This is just something that he chooses in his entire body of work.
Oh,
And so
okay.
it's this double-edged sword here where he's making these historical, again, publishing in England in 1945. It would have been well assumed that everybody there is far more familiar with the church than you could do now, either here or in the UK.
Sure.
Also, as a highly educated individual, it would be expected that this is stuff that of anybody else he would be very familiar with and can turn to critique power dynamics globally.
Right.
So that was fascinating to me. I did not know. I mean, I don't know how much for other individual readers that's coming through or how it strikes them, but I just had to go through this process step by step of that's interesting. Why is he doing that? That's not why I thought he was doing that. That's really not why I thought he was doing that.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, part of it, part of it, both that I didn't necessarily intend to dive into, and something that is like truly not the purpose of the book at all that I found fascinating to
Yeah.
dig into.
Oh, totally.
But the rest of the characters, I mean, this is another one, again, whether you've read it or not, I feel like culturally we're all pretty familiar with.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was a whole new experience for me because I just, like I said, I don't even recall why I haven't read it. That's how much I like
Okay.
put it out of my mind. But I knew that it was a text that's like extremely famous, and that most people had read it.
Okay. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's why I'm kind of skipping a lot of plot that I think is interesting, but I'm just presuming people will be familiar with this use of, one leader comes in with this grand utopian sounding vision. Perhaps initially that is the case. You've got Boxer, the face of, what is this personal phrase? I will work harder.
Oh yeah, just like loving
Just,
to work hard. Yeah.
yes, it almost, to me, they are put forward, these characters are put forward in order to progress narrative in such a way that it had to be an animal allegory, because as a human, that character would have just had such a punchable face.
Oh yeah. And I mean, excuse me. How do you condense this enormous portion of Russian history and really global political history into a 96-page novella that is intended to be a warning of what could happen when you let this system become manipulated and uh, misshapen if
Yep.
it's not talking animals.
Yep, exactly. No, I think that's exactly it.
Yeah.
And again, kudos to him. I mean, I enjoyed it the first time. I enjoyed it this time. Tremendous approach to the writing that otherwise should frankly be so corny, so
Yeah.
tired, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think some of the individual interactions, perhaps from the lens of us having to learn about this over and over again in history classes, but I think either way, it must have felt this way at least a little when it first came out as well. It's so choreographed what is going to logical ending that's going to come from these
Yeah.
individual vignettes, that some of those parts, it's not even that they're dull, but you wanna move, but that's why it's 96 pages. It
Yeah.
keeps moving on its own anyway.
Yeah.
You know, the pigs, discovering the case of whiskey in the basement. Suddenly, they have a massive party that night.
Yeah.
The dude goes on, you have to, like, you can fill it in for yourself so easily. This rotund leader that rarely leaves the house anymore. Oh, that's weird. They found a case of whiskey 9 hours ago, and suddenly he just went for a run around the yard. You just picture, these jerk face leading generals and, party heads, getting schnockered and daring their buddy to take his shirt off and do a lap around the yard, right?
Yeah. Oh, and we've got lots of people in the government today that are getting trouble for doing exactly that.
And I absolutely love, this is the first time they've ever found alcohol. Have a
Yeah.
rager.
Yeah.
The next day, they declare, "He is unwell, he will pass." Oh, and also new rule, no booze.
Yeah.
And then 2 days later, the, in parentheses, hangover gone,
Mm-hmm.
he orders an entire field tilled and sown with barley to produce their
To
own
make
beer.
more.
Just phenomenal. Boxer, the dumb as a box of rocks,
Oh.
learns the first 4 letters of the alphabet and can't get past that,
Yeah.
but he's just gonna keep working.
Yep.
The sheep, absolutely perfect for
Funny.
this. The
Yeah.
sheep,
Yeah.
oh, the leader's having any problem, they'll start a chant.
Mm-hmm.
The subtle incorporation or references to, strong oratory propaganda and what that can create amongst a mass. Yes, we see it time and time again, and it's as true, if not more now than it was when he penned it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the, again, there were a lot of details that I was like, "Oh, that's so important. That's so important." And then I'm like, "No. These are stock characters, unfortunately representing very real
Real
people
people.
then,
Yeah.
very much fit to a T real people now, but the message is larger, so I've declined some of those details to share here.
Sure. Sure. Well, cool. Thank you for that. Let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we will dive into the movies. All right. Welcome back to Adaptation, the book to movie podcast. We are going over Animal Farm, originally how did you say it? Satirical, allegorical novella.
Correct.
It's like a bouncy ball.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun. It's so fun.
Yeah. Written by George Orwell. There have been several film adaptations, which shouldn't come as a surprise considering how famous it is. There are 3 really major adaptations that we're going to go through, and I have seen all 3. I think I told you the other day off mic that I try to space out when there's a lot of adaptations to get through. I try to start early. Just totally forgot this time around. I don't really know what was happening, and had to watch 3 Animal Farm adaptations in 1 week. So you'll have to forgive me
That sucks.
if I sound a
That
little tired of
sucks.
the story, because, like you were saying, this to be an effective allegory, it's a little bit cringy. It's got to beat you over the head a little bit. So I'm a little bit just like tired of thinking about communism.
Fair.
But anyway, still some very interesting stories behind these movies. All three of them have made pretty significant changes to the plot, particularly the ending. And I think that, I mean, it will become clearer sort of for the most part as we go through these. But I think that's just done because it is such a sensitive topic and America has been so sensitized to the word communism and the word socialism, and even the word propaganda, that I think a lot of these productions were trying to avoid sort of being detected that way or being read that way, especially
Okay.
the very first version of the movie, an animated film in 1954, co-directed by John Hallis and Joy Batchelor, which is actually pretty exciting because it was a woman directing a movie in the 1950s, which was
Yeah.
virtually unheard of. The there's very little dialogue in this movie and it's told mostly through narration. I don't know how they handle dialogue in the book, but there's only one, I believe, one or two actors in this movie because there's so little dialogue. They just needed somebody to
Huh.
sort of narrate, say what was happening, going on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I know I just sort of gave this movie some flowers for having a woman director, but in typical Hollywood fashion, they also threw the woman under the rug because this movie was actually covertly funded by the CIA as anti communist propaganda. Uh,
Incredible.
yeah, which, like I said, that's why they made some of the big changes, particularly to the end of the story. So some CIA operatives, I forget what the department was called at the time, which no longer exists technically, air quotes around that. But there was a department dedicated to to basically generating propaganda and monitoring the social read that people had. The social, what's the word, like
Like
when
the
the
zeitgeist.
yeah, the zeitgeist toward communism, the social. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, so we'll stick with zeitgeist. Anyway,
The pulse. They got their finger on the pulse.
yeah, exactly. These operatives went undercover as film executives to produce the rights and got the rights from Orwell's widow. Kind of shitty
Wow.
thing to do. Yeah.
Wow.
And the directors they chose were British documentarians, chosen because the CIA didn't trust anyone in Hollywood to tell a conservative take on the story. Because, as you may know, if you know
Oh.
anything about Hollywood history, it was an industry that was once very populated by communists and communist sympathizers, I suppose, and including in this era. So they went with these British people who didn't make a lot of narrative films so that they could sort of control the narrative, no pun intended, better.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Ah,
Very much frames communism as attracting chaos, conflict, and destruction. And luckily, it ended up being a huge flop at the box office. Nobody was interested in it. I think these ones they're pretty much all that way. These three that we're going to talk about, they all performed very poorly. I think it's because there's some tonal disparity between political allegory and talking animals. I know we talked about how it's
uh-huh.
almost essential, but I mean, like imagine taking a kid to see Animal Farm. Like, why would you do
Goodness, no.
that?
Yep.
Yeah, but what adult would see an
Indoctrination.
ad for a movie with talking animals and go see it on their own, unless they are co-hosting a podcast, in which case they do it and hate it. Anyway, people caught on to the changed ending at the time and were just sort of put off and felt like that wasn't really what Orwell was getting at. It seems like maybe there was a better understanding that that was not an anti-communist text back then, so people
Uh-huh.
sort of caught on to the fact that this movie was like fooey. But it went technically unconfirmed for decades that the CIA had funded the movie. There were a few hints, a few people sort of slipped up in interviews, but it wasn't confirmed until somebody like a historian, I believe an Orwell historian, found some documentation that confirmed that the people that bought the rights were employed by the Central Intelligence Agency. Sentiment, public
Wow.
sentiment, by the way, is the word that I was looking
Yes.
for
There we
10
go.
minutes ago. Anyway, so kind of an interesting story. Also, weirdly, despite the fact that they made some changes and it's got some problematic politics in it, probably the best of the three adaptations, just in terms of filmmaking
Really?
craft. Yeah, yeah.
Huh.
The next major one we got was not until 1999. So a long, long jump there. It's a live action movie in air quotes because um, they obviously had to do a lot of animating of like animal
Mm-hmm.
mouths and things like that. But they did actually use some real animals and built a lot of animatronics and puppets and things like that so
Mm-hmm.
that they could tell the story in live action. It aired on TNT, which is now a Warner Brothers company. Just an interesting fact considering what is happening with Warner Brothers in the industry right now. What was really interesting to me about this movie was how difficult it was for me to find any information about it. I don't have information
Ah.
about why it was made or why it was a TV movie instead of a theatrical film. Or, I mean, I could tell you, who the writers and directors are, like I do with every movie, but I couldn't tell you why they were attracted to it. I can't tell you why the changes they made were made. Anything. It's really difficult for me to find, or it was really difficult for me to find any legitimate, verifiable information about this one,
Uh-huh.
which I think is a little bit fishy considering the history
Is that yeah,
of
like
this story.
to the extent that it's are you seeing like a deliberate like trying to make some space away from this decision 27 years ago to make this?
No, I don't think I'm picking up on that necessarily. It is a television movie from the 90s that aired on a network that's not, I mean, TNT is a well known network, but it's not like it aired on NBC or something huge like that.
Uh-huh.
So it could just be that the interest over time has waned so much. But I don't, I don't know. Just considering this story has a history of being manipulated by higher powers, it makes me wonder a little bit
Right.
if that wasn't done on purpose. If this had been an HBO movie instead of a TNT movie, we'd certainly have a
Uh-huh.
lot more information about it than we do. Things just would have been recorded better.
Weird.
So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
fishy. I'm not saying anything except that that's it's strange. It's really strange.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Also worth pointing out, I believe it had a $23 million budget, which is huge for a television movie in the 90s. Again, just another indicator that like what the hell is going on here. It's like nothing's very clear. And
The
actually
CIA just took a second crack.
it's I mean, it doesn't it doesn't seem out of the question. The other one sort of fun fact that I was able to find was that the animatronics that were built were created by Jim Henson's company, and that's the guy. He's a very famous puppeteer. He did the Muppets
Yes.
and
Yes.
and several other high profile
I
things
don't live
throughout
under a
the
rock.
80s. Well, sometimes you kind of do.
Yeah, but
um,
to not know who Jim Henson is, you have to be a monster.
well, I bet you there's a lot of people listening that have no idea who Jim Henson is because he wasn't.
Sorry,
It's
guys.
not like he was the famous one, right? His creations were.
Yes, okay.
But anyway, I don't even know if it was like a hit on television. I don't know. I don't know any of that. I can't find any of that information. So that's all I have to say about that one.
Weird.
I know, isn't that strange?
Okay. That's very strange.
Then we got a new version this year. It's another one. I think we've talked about this before. It technically debuted at a festival last year, so a lot of places will call it a 2025 movie. I feel like it's not. It hasn't been born until the public has access to it. So, in my opinion, it makes it a 2026 movie.
Okay.
But that's just kind of one of my cinephile irks. Directed by Andy Serkis, an actor that we like, who has dipped his
Whoa.
toe into directing a handful of times. This is a weird choice for him because I don't know why
Yeah.
his other films have been live action and mostly period pieces. I don't know if it's because he's played so many animal and animal-like characters that somebody thought that was a good fit or what, but I guess he did direct an adaptation actually of The Jungle Book for Netflix. So just again, the same similarities that it has with Charlotte's Web are also existing in the
Uh-huh.
Jungle Book, right? Talking animals. But
Yep.
otherwise, I don't know. Weird pick. Written by Nicholas Stoller, mostly does kids stuff and comedy. Again, a weird combination. I don't know why you would have somebody like that write an adaptation of this. But what's also really
Uh-huh.
strange is that it has this mega all-star cast. Andy Serkis is in the movie as well, but it stars Seth Rogen, Woody Harrelson, Kieran Culkin, Glenn Close, Steve Buscemi, Jim Parsons, Kathleen Turner, Laverne Cox, Iman Vellani, and Gaten Matarazzo. And those are just,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, I mean, unbelievable. That's like, I don't even know. I should have tallied up how many Oscar and Emmy nominations and wins.
Yeah.
This is Kieran Culkin's first movie to come out after winning an Oscar, I believe, which is a shame because the movie is horrendous. It is one of the worst movies I've
Oh,
ever seen. And its reviews reflect that, as did its box office performance. It only made like $3 million in its opening weekend, which
oh,
is
duh.
abysmal. Yeah. So I'm sure that there's plenty of information about how this one was created and why, but I between it being my third one and one of the worst movies I've ever seen, and the fact that I just don't trust that it's not from the CIA, I didn't really look into how this movie came about. I'll never see a version of this that I don't wonder is whether it's made by the CIA
I think you're
because of
correct.
where we live and when. So very
Yeah.
interesting to me that these movies, they all kind of stink. They all have some weird circumstances around them. And I don't think any of them, much like the, you know, public sentiment, keyword, around the novel, I don't think any of them really understand what Orwell was actually saying because they have
Uh,
been distorted into anti-communist propaganda.
uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Wow.
I know.
I'm still reeling. Andy Serkis, because he's lovely, his interviews are lovely, but I'm going to forever picture him as Gollum,
Right.
directing this very serious political satire with Seth Rogen?
It is not a serious satire. It is, I mean, it's full of like fart jokes and like physical comedy, you know, like slapstick. There's a whole sequence where the pigs are learning to walk upright like humans, that is
Yes.
played purely for laughs. It's just about how much stuff they break in the house and how badly
Uh-huh.
they hurt themselves
Uh-huh.
instead of being creepy because pigs are learning to walk like humans.
Yeah. And
It's,
breaking their foremost rules. Yeah.
yeah, exactly that as well. Yeah, the movie's a comedy, and they tried to make it kid friendly. I know I said earlier, imagine taking a kid to see this movie. There were a lot of families in the theater when I saw this movie. Every single one of them walked out before it ended
Okay.
because
Yep.
because it's not. I mean, it's not a family movie,
No, I
but
mean, in essence, it is the worst of both worlds.
yeah, yeah, really, no kidding. It's just god awful. I just can't believe it's real. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
I would have, had we
I
not
mean,
been doing this podcast, I would have walked out of the theater. And I
really.
rarely do that. I think the only time I've done that before is Cats.
The other anthropomorphized
Yeah,
animals.
exactly. I think I've got a thing about
You've got a type
uncanny
or a
valley
not
thing
type.
or an anti-type. Yeah.
I do. Had you not mentioned it, or I guess more appropriately, put it on the calendar, I've not heard a word about this. No ads, no
Yeah.
trailers, nothing popping up on, not a sniff.
Yeah. I mean, part of that comes from, like I said, it debuted at a festival last year and it got terrible word of mouth right out of the festival. And so the studio behind it, which is actually worth talking about, I'll mention that here in a second, probably was like, yeah, we can't sink a ton of money into advertising this and turning it
Uh-huh.
into the
Uh-huh.
summer animated hit that it could have been under a different set of circumstances.
Interesting.
But
Yeah.
it was funded, or not funded, it was purchased by a studio called Angel Studios, which has been making it, they're a fairly new film distribution studio, extremely conservative studio. Another reason why I'm like, do you watch the movies? Do you know what this is about?
Hmm.
And they've gotten in a lot of trouble before for like gaming the numbers for their movies. Let me see if I can find what the one was called, where they asked fans basically to purchase movie tickets, donate movie tickets. Sound of Freedom came out a couple of years ago, and everybody was like, "Why is this movie doing so well?" The box office numbers were really strong. It was Angel Studios' like first major movie, because they were asking anybody that went to donate tickets online. So you would go and you would get guilted into, it's a Christian studio as well, so there were a lot of church groups that were like, or churches that would buy out a screening and then nobody would go because the movie looked awful and got bad reviews because it was awful. But it was like flying up the box office charts. It was performing really well because of
Uh-huh.
all of these church buyouts, and this buy a ticket for someone in need is what they
Um,
said.
uh,
So yet another reason to believe that maybe this one had some nefarious background is because the people that brought it to us have proven to be a little
from
bit,
nefarious background.
yeah, fishy. So weird, just weird
Wow.
stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
That's wild.
I know. It is wild. And
And they go, you know what our studio's missing? Animal Farm.
I know. I mean, they're trying, they played like 3 or 4 ads for other Angel Studios movies before this one, which were other movies that I just didn't have on my radar whatsoever. There's like young George Washington and some other ones like that. So I can see why they snatched up this adaptation of a literary classic, to sort of boost their like
Mm.
library, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
But based on the politics of their studio, all of their films have been wildly conservative, sometimes
Uh-huh.
problematically. So I'm like, well, so you didn't do your research then, I don't think.
Not at all. Not at all.
But
Huh.
I think that's a good time to transition into our
Sure.
discussion questions. So why don't you hit me with what you came up with?
Yes, this is going to be annoying at some point, but once again, for like the 7th one in a row, much of the book worked very well for me in book form.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, maybe it's because we're so familiar with fairy tales that it was like, you don't question, farmer comes in, pig's talking to him immediately.
Sure.
But I can't picture this being anything besides ridiculous on screen. Again, especially because it's in reality a very heavy topic. Is there, I mean, I guess you really kind of answered this with the third one. They just tried to ditch heavy entirely and made it funny animals?
Yeah, the third one they did. I mean, to answer your question, I don't think it really does make for a good movie. I think that
Okay.
tonal imbalance that I was talking about between like subject material and delivery method, it
Yep.
just doesn't work in this medium, and that's fine. There are a lot of stories that don't work as movies. We've talked about that since the beginning of this podcast when we did The Hobbit, right? They thought it was
Yep.
unadaptable or unfilmable. That's just how it goes. And this, I think, to be honest, I think any film version of this has been a complete failure of an experiment. It's absurd. I mean, you can't. Yeah, it works better in a book because I think you pick up a book intentionally knowing what you're going to get into, right? You pick up
Yes.
George Orwell
Yes.
and you're like, well, I'm going to get some sort of story about how the
Yep.
world is kind of shitty, right?
Yep.
I don't know that
Does
if
it
you see
doesn't
an
oh, that's
ad
actually
like on TV for a bunch of pigs running around farting and laughing at each other, of course you're going to bring your 6-year-old daughter and she's going to cry because it's the most boring thing
mhm.
she's ever seen.
Hey, why did they just kill the farmer? Well, honey,
Right.
let me tell you about revolution.
Right. Well, and
Yeah.
the way that they depict, because they want to make it family friendly or television friendly, they don't you don't really see them kill the farmer. Like it's very implied, or it's very
Yep.
cartoonish. They kind of just like stampede him, which of course would work in real life, but we all know that stampedes are different. It's not
Yes.
like the Lion King in real life. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, I just I don't really have an answer for your question because you can't. This is unadaptable.
Okay. It's just exactly as ridiculous as it sounds.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They should maybe
Okay.
maybe they should try doing like, every once in a while, Audible or some other ebook company will produce a version with like movie stars doing the voices.
Yeah, like a dramatized reading.
Yeah, that would work
I
probably
think
a
that
lot
would be
better.
fabulous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's for sure what I would
Huh.
do or an audio drama. Those are becoming more popular too.
Mhm.
That would work a lot
Or
better than
maybe just put them in costumes and like CGI them a little bit, but then hire Jason Derulo and Taylor Swift and give them strange teeth.
right,
Maybe that
and do it all in
would that
song,
fix this?
like one long
Yeah,
song
would
that's
that
not good.
fix this?
Yeah, probably.
Memory slaps and I'll die on that hill.
Yes, it does, and we probably didn't say that loudly enough on our podcast, but
That's the problem.
the one and only good song on that show. Yeah,
Fair. Yeah, quite fair.
yeah. Okay, what I want to ask, I know that you and I have established that this is not an anti-communist text. How?
No, 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 no. Let me be clear. It's
Okay,
not. It's also not
right.
anti-communist. It's just he had a very, very, very specific, literal one man.
Yeah,
This was intended to be a chastisement of how Stalin did communism.
yeah, right. Okay,
So it
but
is
it's
more globally still as we know it, but it is utterly ignoring and not discussing what communism is philosophically or in its design.
right.
I guess is what I meant.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I walk away having seen all three versions of these movies, and then I've also read the Wikipedia synopsis of the book because
Okay.
I my understand because all three of the movies have different endings, and I was like, which one's true or which one's you know written by George Orwell? My reading was very much that the book is like you said, it's more a condemnation of Stalin and Stalinism, and it is supposed to, I think, like yellow highlighter the potential weaknesses of communism. Why did they make communism and capitalism words that sound so similar?
So similar.
Highlight the potential weaknesses so that, like, as a warning sign, right? Like, do not go this way, road
Yes.
closed. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
How do you think we went from that coming from George Orwell's pen to this being seen as a firmly and routinely used as a firmly anti-communist manifesto?
Yeah, no, no, no. That's a very good question. I do, because you'll be surprised to know I did not have the wildly shocking and interesting information that the CIA funded the
Yeah,
first one.
yeah.
I mean, flop or not, one may argue they did exactly what they wanted to,
It's been out
because
there
that
since
is
the
how
50s.
people and that's how people perceive it. I think the problem is twofold. One is you'd need to be at least somewhat more intimately familiar with exactly where the shift happened from um, Marxism, Leninism
Mhm.
to Stalinism
Yeah,
to be familiar with that difference in the first place. And the second is exactly what I experienced reading through it, because everything that he warns about is essentially, all right, I said we weren't going to get into it, but we're going to get into it, as a straightforward, written out policy, philosophical map. Communism is perfect.
sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
The problem is humans.
yeah,
And each of the points that he stops and highlights, which now, looking back from 2026, we see sort of different historical regimes that did that thing the best, stealing from other people,
Yeah.
just the autocrats getting rich, the
Hmm.
scapegoating of Snowball
Yeah,
later
I
on.
know.
That even
Snowball.
that surpasses communism and is seen in just nearly every
Oh
political
yeah.
happening everywhere, right?
Hmm.
And what he highlights is essentially an advertisement for communism as Marx put it forward. And here are the common pitfalls that humans will experience. Because I think another thing that is often ignored is we have these massive examples simply because of the countries, for the most part, who have followed this of communism because it's what they call themselves failing. We also have many examples of communism working wonderfully. The difference is, and I think on a human level this would need to be the difference in a full state implementation,
Hmm.
is they almost always have to be a theocracy.
Okay.
And so the inherent communist flavor of religion is the opiate of the masses, get it out of here, is diametrically opposed to this. But if everybody in a given group that wanted to run a society has the same foundational moral philosophies,
Yeah.
like the commandments, like the way that he wrote how they started,
Hmm.
again, and this is historically what we see when they started, wonderful,
Right.
brilliant.
Right. Till somebody swoops
And
in. Yeah.
till someone stoops in and decides to get greedy or power hungry,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
This is the critique of the power systems more globally that I was talking about that I think are utterly lost. People go, oh, communism bad. That's it for Animal Farm. No, he's talking in an anthropomorphic pig's mouth, saying not far off from the same things that Noam Chomsky did in his discussion of modern power systems.
Yeah, that's true.
And again, unless you've read Noam Chomsky, you're not going to make that connection. So you're going to say, no, he's talking about communism. And that's it.
Yeah.
Which was not his goal. The dude also thought socialism was a great idea, which I know they are not synonymous, but that Venn
They're
diagram's
related. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that's a curious question. I think it also just is easy again with the examples that we have to accept that and go along with that condemnation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, my answer to the question was just going to be that American people can be really dense, and
Which is fair.
we've
Which
been
is fair.
propagandized to death for years against communism. And if this has even a whiff of it,
Exactly.
which it totally has more than a whiff, then
A stench.
yeah, a foul
A full
odor.
manure pile.
Oh,
Oh,
that was good. A
dang. That
manure
was
pile.
better. No, yours was better. Foul odor rocks, but FOWL.
Yeah. See, but
Right? There
I
were a
wasn't even
few
thinking
geese
of
in
that.
Yeah, there
So
were a few geese.
yeah.
Oh, I thought that was a brilliant pun. Yeah, there
No.
were some geese in there.
Yeah, there's some geese and ducks.
Yeah, so it obviously very naturally, I mean, as we discussed at the beginning, until I researched for this was my second reading through it. I thought it was brilliant. And I also had not made the connection that this was pointed at Stalin specifically.
Yeah.
Would he himself have approached the topic differently in 2026, given the myriad of new options that have become available? Who knows?
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so there's an amount of, is that what he meant? And there's an amount, I mean, this is just ham fisting it, but I feel somewhat comfortable. There's an amount of, does it make a difference?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I
Right?
totally agree with that. Yeah.
Because again, it's not like Pol Pot was better. It's not like, now Mao is tough and divisive. I almost don't even want to discuss it. I would not put him on this list, though. I'll stop at that. But Kim Jong Un, Kim Jong Il, you know what? Actually, two that I'm also hesitant to put on the list: President Xi and Castro. I think it's an even more gray area. But like Stalin, no one questions. You
Right.
starved 40 million of your own
Yeah. He's
people.
known as one of the worst leaders that ever lived.
Yeah, again, the Kim regime in North Korea. Yeah, they say they're communist.
Yeah.
In what form, in what facet?
Right.
Why are we even going along with this anymore? And so I completely agree with you. I think that's a, post McCarthyism problem that unfortunately hasn't changed much. I mean, when I moved to China, that was only 8 years ago, and I still had people close to me, well-educated people, going, "Oh, wow, what was it like living in a communist country? Did it suck? Did you have food?" I'm like, "No,
Well,
my whiskey sours that were delicious
yeah.
just only cost 75 cents,
Hmm.
and I was served a whole grilled fish next to it.
Yep.
Calm down, buddy." Like, I don't know. It is, yes, it's this is a lot of what I promised at the top of the episode not to discuss, but
No,
here
that's,
we
I
are.
mean, I think it's impossible not to. I think one of the reasons it's short is so that there's literally room and mental capacity to explore these ideas, right?
Yes, and it indeed introduces a lot. I do not believe you could finish this very short, quick read and not have to find someone and chat.
Yeah. Yeah,
You gotta
totally.
digest, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, it seems quite clear at this point, but Nate Day, recommendations?
I said just skip them. They're not good or true to Orwell, so I don't have anybody to recommend them to.
All, not a single one's worth the watch.
Um, if you're studying propaganda, you can study that 54 one, but like I don't know why else
Okay,
you would. Why else would you subject yourself to that?
that's actually a great pitch, yeah. Are you looking to take over a small
Right.
country?
Yeah, exactly.
We
Well,
have a blueprint.
how about you? Who do you recommend the book to?
It's tough. I mean, first, like we discussed already, probably most people have already read it
Right.
or have declined deliberately. But I do think both because of the he truly does a brilliant job in his writing, the allegory aspect. Yes, parts are inherently hitting you over the head, but for the most part, it is in a palatable way.
Yeah. Sure.
And so to get this information and discussion in such a tightly wrapped package, I mean, I had no qualm with reading it a second time. Will I read it a third? I guess I have no idea. But I clearly anticipated this because I went back to look and I gave it 5 stars the first time.
Oh, okay.
So, 18-year-old Chris thought he would wanna reread it.
Well, that's when they get you.
I think there's an amount, were it already a discussion I was having with someone, again, because it's so short, I would maybe say, "Let's you know what? Take a gander through this, let's discuss it again." I don't know what that context is.
Yeah.
Discussing Probably discussing
Yeah.
dystopian literature, what could be. I don't know, because also there's a part that's very much a downer when you're reading it and you know it's supposed to be allegory, and it's not far off
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
from the things we're actually seeing,
Oh
you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, there's some parts of it that are sad and scary and a little too
Yeah,
real,
yeah.
you know?
You know what? Let me give you a concrete pitch. Here's who I would recommend it to, because this is my first time reading it solo. The first time I truly read it was with a book club, and I think that's the right place to do it.
Yeah. In a group setting,
Yes, where you're gonna, debrief together
discuss. Yeah.
after.
Yeah.
If a book club, you just got done with one of those big meaty, like, 9 9-book series or something, and you just want a little bit light, well, holidays is a crazy example. Maybe summer, everybody's traveling, no
Yeah.
one's got time
Yeah.
for a full this is such an easy, "Oh, toss her in. Let's discuss Animal Farm next month," you
Yeah.
know?
That's cool. That's a good suggestion. I wish I could say the same for the movies, but I don't think you get anything out of talking about them except for the crazy
No.
CIA fact.
Yeah, that's so cool. That might make it worth seeing that one just as an exploration of its own
I
that's
will
so
say
cool that you found that.
I will say up until the end of the movie where it sort of flips on its own agenda in order to share the CIA's agenda. It's
Uh,
not a bad movie, but the fact that it is the ending and that's what you walk away with, the image, you're like,
yep,
okay, well, that sucked.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what
Mm.
did you rate it this time around?
This one's, I'm going to say a stout 4. Yeah, definitely not a 5. I'm not going to say I'm definitively going to read it again.
Yeah.
But it has the accolades it does for a good reason.
Okay.
It is first and foremost excellent writing. He's a
Yeah.
great writer. It's very vivid. You're not battling to get through the text.
Yeah.
And I think, especially of his goal, which was to point out this difficult thing, but discuss it in a manageable way, flawless. This is like the example of Allegory to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, a very stout 4 out of 5.
Cool.
And again, yours feels pretty clear, but
pretty low. Yeah, I gave 2.5 stars to both the 54 and 99 versions, and that's probably more generous than I should have been.
Wow.
Because the 2026 version I only gave 1.5 star, which is 1.5 stars. Is that plural?
1.5 stars. Yeah, it's still more than 1.
But it's less than 2. Interesting.
No, plural is just more than 1.
Okay. Well, then I guess it's not that interesting. But anyway, 1.5 stars. Yeah, it's among the worst movies I've ever seen.
Wow.
Yeah, it's bad.
This is like, I don't know, some sadism crap, but that almost makes me want to see this one than when you're like, this was incredible, everyone go see it.
I knew,
because I just need to see what a dumpster fire this is.
I know. That's the thing, is that part of me was, I knew going in that it had these terrible reviews, and I wasn't really looking forward to it because it was going to be my third Animal Farm in 7 days.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, just try and enjoy how awful it is. Like, it's that, like it's come to that point where it's just like, do what you can to have a good time at this movie. And even that was hard. I was like, I didn't like the humor. I didn't like the performances. I didn't like just nothing. So anyway, on that note,
okay.
Thank you for joining us for our discussion today about Animal Farm. I'm actually really looking forward to the next one that we're going to do, which is Rebecca. You're going to have to help me by this author name, Daphne. Do you know how to say that?
Maurier.
Okay, I'm going to leave that to you. With films by Alfred Hitchcock and Ben Wheatley, I believe we'll have a special guest as well.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
But I'm very much looking forward to that. I'm a huge Hitchcock fan, so that's going to be a really great episode. So thank you again.
I'm very excited.
Yeah, me too. Thank you again for joining us today, and we look forward to our next chat. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's the show for today. Thanks for tuning in. Let us know in the comments what you're reading, what you're watching, and what adaptations you'd like us to cover. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at adaptation_pod and on Twitter at adaptpod. See you next time.